Good evening and welcome to Confessions. I'm your hostess of light, Jenny Watson. I'm a personal empowerment coach, new moon astrologer, and past life reader. And my mission is to provide a safe space to people to explore their darkness so that they can step into their brightest of lights. And that's what this show is all about. Tonight we'll be talking about truth. Now truth is interesting because it's not the same for everyone. We're each born with our own truth, and we spend our life seeking it, listening to other beliefs, and hopefully finally understanding what that means to us. When we look for the truth in any given situation, relationship, opportunity, and honor that truth within ourselves, we can't be steered wrong. So joining me to talk about this subject tonight is Jessica Colp. She is a life coach, a modern-day priestess, a teacher, and an intuitive healer. She's also co-Creatrix of Earth School, the greatest classroom in the cosmos, and her whole mission is to know the truth of beingness. So it is an honor to have Jessica on with me tonight, so let's welcome her to Confessions. How are you, Jess?
Hi, thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
That's awesome. Are you ready to bare your soul?
I am. Let's let it loose.
Yeah, so how have you been? How are you feeling?
Really great, and I'm so excited that you're honing in on truth. That's what I want to talk about tonight.
Perfect. So it's a perfect start. I had read that you had kind of born wanting to know what that truth is. So tell us a little bit about that awareness in your childhood and how that developed.
Okay. I don't have a really dramatic like childhood story or anything. However, when I look back and see how I was raised and then see where I am today, I see how perfectly the alignment of all that is, which it is for each of us, right? I'm from the middle of Alaska, from Fairbanks, Alaska. Alaska doesn't have a lot of people, so even though I'm from the second largest city in Alaska, it was kind of remote. I grew up in a very conservative Christian household, family, and we went to church all the time, and I was educated in church school, so it was a very conservative upbringing. And truth was really important, right? Like I was raised with a very clear picture of what was the truth, which just didn't really hold up when it came time for me to be on my own. So I'm so grateful for that because it gave me so much impulse, like my inner impulse was there to find what was true for me because truth has been hammered within me as being so important.
So what did you find your truth to be?
Well, you know, I had been so raised with the concept that the Bible was the literal word of God, you know, and that there was one way to God, just one way, and just so much dogma around spirituality. You know, it was such heavy religious upbringing. And my first year in college, I took a class called Intro to the Bible as Literature because I was interested in literature and I was thinking I might major in English and I thought, oh, that's fun. I know the Bible. This should be an easy class. And the class was taught by a Methodist minister, which I thought, oh, that's great. He's a minister. You know, he's a Christian and he's teaching this class. And he poked holes in all of the truth that I thought I knew. And I was so confused. And he and I had a great rapport. And several times in that semester, I ended up in his office on the college campus saying, I don't get it. What's true? Is the Bible true or is it not true? Just tell me. And he sat back in his chair and he was like, Jessica, the older I get, the more I realize that knowing what's true is really not that important. What's true for you? And I was so infuriated, like, how can you be a minister and have that answer for me? Well, it was great because it led to me needing to throw out everything that I've been given. For years, I lived in a space of being unwilling to pinpoint my beliefs into anything. All I was willing to believe was that if I believed in God, God must be good. Therefore, God is good. That's it. Any other belief about God, I refused to have for years. And I'm so glad that I had that because that gave it like cleansed all this stuff. Like to be unwilling to believe anything, really, for years, let me have a blank slate to then bring in only what resonated to me. And I hadn't, up until that point, I hadn't known that I could be the authority of what's true. I just hadn't known that. And that was really radical. And that is the essence of what I share with my clients and my students, that truth meter is within each of us.
Absolutely. So being that you were brought up in that kind of a background, did you face some challenges or some unhappiness with your family, like breaking away from what you were taught?
Yeah, it was really hard. It was like a whole identity crisis. And loss of community, like to kind of step away was to really choose to be alone, at least at that point.
All right, so we're talking about truth. So let's start talking about some of your truths. You started out as a high school teacher.
Yes.
So, and then you graduated to kind of into this healer role and therapeutic role. So what caused that shift within you?
I loved teaching high school. I was the teacher that taught the classes where we would discuss everything. Like, who cares what you think? Let's just have critical thinking. And so I taught English and I taught history because those are the classes you can really get into discussion. And it was just important to me that the kids I taught learned how to think. Then, lucky me, my last 2 years of teaching, my principal let me teach yoga as a PE class. I became a yoga teacher.
Oh, how fun.
And the principal was pretty interested in having some alternative PE classes for those kids that didn't want to do team sports in the gym. So I filled this little niche, like, come to my class and we'll do yoga.
Where were you when I was in school?
Right? It was so good. And the kids came, and it wasn't long before they were requesting, like, can we have a longer Shavasana? Or can we do more tune-in time? Like, we didn't call it meditation. We called it tuning in time. Or could we do more breathing? Or could we do this thing that helped me the last time I was sick? You know, like, they could recognize what the benefit of this mindful practice was. So, of course, we were having discussion in yoga class, even though it was the PE class. And then it was like things shifted for me of, if we're going to have discussion, it should be about who you are and what's your intention and how are you taking care of yourself. Who cares where you put your comma? So at the same time, everything in my life kind of was coalescing for a big change. And I had just recently heard about life coaching. I'm like, what is that? What is that job? What does it mean to be a life coach? And my school district even sent me to a conference where there were life coaches there, or coaches there, that were coaching superintendents and principals. Mm-hmm. And I got to witness that. Like, I want to do that. So I moved into, that's how I moved into this career field. It was very...
And that in itself is an interesting story.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, didn't you kind of uproot yourself completely?
Yeah, so I moved from Alaska to LA, and all I knew was that I had to follow what the impulse in me was, or I was going to die. Like, that's so melodramatic, and yet on this very core level of what is the truth of Jessica, that was the truth. If I stay here and I don't make radical change in my life, if I don't follow this impulse, something in me will die. And I'm glad for that experience, as dramatic as that is, because the clients that I work with, that's where they are. They'll come to me like, it doesn't make any sense for me to leave my job, or it doesn't make any sense for me to make a change in my life. And I'll say, well, what will be the outcome if you don't? And so many people give me my same answer back. I will die. Right? And I know we're not talking like a literal physical death. It's just a death of something.
Sister, I got you. I'll be calling you after this. But what's interesting about that is that, you say you found your truth, like through all these experiences. You were a high school teacher and it led to yoga, and then it led to this conference with life coaching, and you felt your calling. So how can people tap into that and find their truth? What do you usually advise them to do where, not that it's like, oh, I hate my job, I wish I was doing something else, but really identify and locate what that truth is?
That's a really good question, because most people don't, they can't answer that. If I was just to say, what's the truth for you? That's a very deep question that we can't answer from the surface. So to me, that takes some excavation and practice. It's like building our truth meter, is like becoming very sensitive to our own BS or our own ego, perspectives on things or our fears. It takes work. For me, 1 year in teaching, I'd been teaching for maybe 6 or 7 years, and in the summer, I went to a meditation retreat and learned how to meditate. It was a great experience for me. And I was at this retreat, and I was complaining to the other participants about, I don't really like my job, I won't be there forever, I don't know what else I want to do. Because it was a chronic complaint that I had. I wasn't doing anything about it, I was just complaining. And this old lady at the retreat, I remember nothing about her except she was an old lady who irritated me. She's like, well, Jessica, if you don't want to be there, what do you want? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what I want. And she's like, well, Jessica, what is your heart's desire? And it just was a question, like, she must have been one of my angels, because the question just worked its way into me, like, it just wormed its way in, and it wouldn't let me go. And I spent months trying to answer that question for me. Because, I mean, why shouldn't I be able to answer that question? It just bothered me that I didn't have an answer. So for months, I kept holding up, like, do I want to be a massage therapist? Is that my heart's desire? And I'd feel it and think about it, and like, no, I don't think so. Do I want to be an acupuncturist? Is that my heart's desire? And I would feel it and imagine it and go, no, that's not my heart's desire. And I did that with like a zillion careers. If I don't want to be a teacher, what do I want? Well, months, like literally months of asking myself this question very privately. This wasn't me in discussion with the world. It was me in questioning with myself. Finally, I came to the answer, and it was illogical. Like, what is my heart's desire? It's to travel. That's all I want. I want to travel, and I don't want a vacation. I want to travel. I want to backpack through some foreign country for several months. That's what I want. And then I had to sit with that for several weeks. Like, that's crazy. Like, is that real? Like, heart, why do you want to do that? It's exciting, though. So after getting clear on that, then everything lined up for that. I made that happen. And everybody in my world, like, there weren't very many people going, rah, go travel. Mm-hmm. People in my world were like, really? Well, why don't you do that on summer break? Why do you need to take a semester off teaching? Why do you need to go to a foreign country? Why don't you just... Only it built something in me. That was one of my first choices. That was me following my truth. And then from there, then I learned to hear my truth more and more, right? And I think that's the way it is with people. We need practice. And we don't, we're not taught that. We're not raised with that. We're like I was raised to obey and honor the authority and respect the rules. That's not about truth. That's just about following the outer influence.
Exactly.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that was fantastic. I'm sitting there listening. I'm like, that's what my heart wants too. She's my twin.
Yeah, you looked excited at that.
I was like, yes. I totally highly recommend travel everywhere. So as you're becoming more and more clear in your truth, one of them led you to life coaching. So tell us a little bit about your life coaching and the kind of different services that you offer to people.
Okay. I have lots of clients. I love my clients. I love the consciousness that people who come to me have, just a willingness to be themselves more fully and more powerfully. I'm sure that's your clients, that's your listeners, right? Like, to me, I see people everywhere that just want to follow their heart, and they want to be on purpose, and they want to be of service. So in my coaching with clients, what I recognize is that there are certain principles that we have to remember. One of them is that I am a spiritual being. When I remember that, then I can more fully embody my human experience. If I only identify as a human being in a human world, I lose touch with the fact that I'm spirit, and I lose touch with that voice. So like that principle, I'm spirit. I am a unique expression of God. People need to know that, and I can talk that principle in all kinds of language. Like, we could talk about God, we don't have to talk about God, right?
Right, exactly.
We just need to recognize our own spirituality, and we need to honor that. Mm-hmm. And then I know that people need to know things like, hey, life's actually for me. I don't have to be on guard. What I need to do is let go and let life work with me. And that co-creative process makes manifestation much easier, and that's where joy and fulfillment and freedom are, right? So those are just basic, to me, those are spiritual principles or truths. We could call them truths. That when I let those truths really sink into my consciousness, then the action is much easier. If I try to have the action and then remember those principles, it doesn't work. So there's an order of priority that in my practice, I feel like that's all it's about, is let's remember the priority that's that you weren't taught, that the world isn't telling you. That's just the very simple key that makes everything else work in life.
I love that. So, and you use different mechanisms for that. You have private coaching, but then you also, what is the Inner Circle coaching program that you have going on?
I love my clients so much, and one of the things that happened when I was coaching is, in my first years of coaching was, I wanted my clients to meet each other, except, there's confidentiality. So I realized if I wanted my clients to meet each other and be the best friends that I knew they could be, I needed to have groups. So the inner teacher in me, I have to teach stuff. I used to teach literature, right? Steinbeck, Fitzgerald. Mm-hmm. Now I teach spiritual authors. It's the same thing.
I love it.
Different context. So I've taught lots and lots of classes, and it's all kind of culminated into a group coaching program I have called the Inner Circle of Luminaries. And they work with me one-on-one. They have group classes once a month, and they have I adjusted the sound. And they have partners. They partner up with each other month by month. So I'm their support for each other. We read books together. We have themes of the month and group coaching calls.
That sounds amazing. How can people find out more about you and that circle?
My website is right here, www.jessicacolp.com. I really like that.
Nice and convenient, right? So anybody anytime can be like, I want to find Jessica. Okay, yes. I'm just going to type her website. That's fantastic. Now, beyond that, I met you through here, and you are what there's called the co-Creatrix of Earth School, where you're known as the High Priestess of Heart. Tell us a little bit about that adventure. Earth
School, we have a Facebook community or Facebook page, and we send out weekly or daily wake-up call emails, so you can get on that list, and you can find that off of what is it? Just search My Earth School on Facebook and find that. I co-founded that with my friend Julie Zipper, who you have interviewed in the past, and so we just. Julie and I found that we were really great at co-teaching, and so Earth School was birthed out of that. And when we came up with, well, what are our titles in Earth School? Like, what are we willing to represent, and what archetypal roles are we willing to take on? For me, it's the Priestess. And several years ago, I did a program with the Institute of Modern Wisdom. It's called the Modern Day Priestess Program. And when I heard that word Priestess, it turned me on, which surprised me, because spirituality is the most important thing in my life, and anything that has a whole lot of religious connotations isn't of much interest to me. However, the word priestess, that identity of I am willing to hold a high vibration of truth and love. I'm willing to do that for myself. I'm willing to do that for others. I'm willing to do that for the planet. I'm willing to be in service to the divine in every aspect of my life. To me, that's what it means to be the priestess. And I love I'm a Gemini, so to me it feels like these are my two sides. Like I'm the coach. I can put on the coach hat. That sounds very real world. People can grasp that. And then the priestess is the shamanic and the mystical and the metaphysical and the woo-woo, right? Which I am too, right? So the fact that I can be both, oh my God, that just floats my boat. Some people know me more as one or the other, and that's cool. That's cool.
You're all good with all of it.
Totally.
That is the nature of Gemini, just wearing all the different hats, and gotta keep it real.
Yes, I am not one-dimensional.
I love it. So, you're kind of confessing a little bit there, but we're going to go deeper into confession time right now.
Okay.
And you had shared with me that you face a lot of challenges on the way to discovering who you are. So take us through some of your maybe your more profound experiences and how you broke through to become who you are today.
Mm. Okay, yeah. You know, I think that most people in my world that know me know me as someone who's very positive. I'm very careful about what words I use to describe my experience because I believe in that. I have a chance to describe every aspect of my experience. Facebook is that practice ground for us, right? Like, what's my status update? So I'm very careful about how I define everything I've been through. And within that, there's been hard days and hard moments on this path. Like, not everything's rosy and sunshiny all the time, even though everything is good and everything is an aspect of light being expressed. So in my own path of following my own heart and my own truth and following my own spirit call, on that path was leaving a marriage because it was time to leave a marriage. And on that path was me following my own freedom, and then, oops, I accidentally got pregnant, and I didn't mean to. And I need to be responsible about that and make a choice about whether to be a mother or not. And that was something that was early on in my own spiritual path that birthed me. And I chose not to have a child, and that choice was very hard and was one of my biggest spiritual initiations into my own power as a representative of the divine feminine. Then moving to California and starting my own business, that was not easy. That was weeks of not being able to get out of bed, depressed and broke, which was another level of, okay, here I am and I'm trusting something beyond all the anchors that are, or the labels or the titles or the security of a paycheck or a job. That was, if I hadn't known better, I would have said I was very depressed. However, when I see myself as a spiritual being having a human experience, then I know, oh, I'm really working through my own shadows and my own fear. And then that led to, I was thinking about another big one of that was, that led to me falling in love with a woman when I'd never imagined ever being in love with a woman, when I was looking for a man. Which still cracks me up, like, oh, cosmic joke. Like, following my truth means blowing my own concepts of who I am and what I think that I want, and honoring that at every step of the way, even if it's hard, or even if it leads to me being an outcast of my own world that I've created, or even if it means me not being able to get out of bed for a while because I'm like on the ground. And I don't talk about those things so much. I mean, I don't hide those. It's just that isn't necessarily what I share. I love that you ask for a confession, though, because that's part of the experience of being a person aligned to truth. Is embracing and not giving up in those moments, and I learned a lot about not judging myself, even if I end up someplace that isn't pretty or doesn't appear to be very spiritual or doesn't appear to be right even, and going, okay, and this is my truth in this moment, and it's okay, and I love myself no matter what.
I think that is such a perfectly beautiful expression of what a journey is like, because we have a vision, and that vision changes 100 different times, and it's how we go and we get challenged, and we get challenged over and over. It's not just like this one defining moment that just changes everything. It's these constant little hiccups along the way that we have to, like you said, like, not get depressed over, but okay, I've got to work through this. This is bringing up something for me, or this is challenging who I am as a soul. How am I going to react and move forward, and am I going to stay in line with my truth? So I think everything you've gone through is a beautiful expression of that. And kudos to you for fighting through all that, and for releasing self-judgments, and for honoring who you are throughout all of that. I think you're a great example for many.
Thank you. Yeah, God is in everything. God's in every experience, even the ones that we're like, what? Why am I here? Nothing's a mistake.
Not at all. So for those people struggling to find their way through some dark times on the way to their path, what kind of advice would you give to them out there?
I would say, this isn't a cliche. This is this is a tool. Breathe in your heart. Breathe in your heart. The path of consciousness is moving from our head down to our heart. And once we're centered in our heart, then we can engage our mind to assist us. However, the wisdom is here in your heart. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got was early in my trying to run a business as a coach and feeling really depressed and trying to hide it and trying to like put on the spiritual face, everything's fine, and not being able to get out of bed. My best friend at the time called me, and she could just hear through my words. She's like, Jessica, really, what's wrong? And I just was weeping, like, I don't know, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. I'm really scared. And she's like, it's okay. Just keep breathing in your heart. Just stay in your heart. Your heart is cracking open. And I hung up the phone, and I lay there in bed, and this is the first time this ever happened. I for the next hour, I just felt my heart. I did, like, my fear would take me out. Nope, come back to the heart. And it was the greatest opening. I didn't need a healer there holding my hand. I just needed to be with myself. And after that, my resilience was so much greater because I knew I was not going to die if I just felt how bad I felt. And I think people need that reminder. No matter how bad you feel, no matter where you are, it's not a representation of who you are, and you will not be there forever. You are where you are in this moment, and life is continually changing. And if you're in a really hard time, then there's that. I look at every hard time now as an initiation into the next greatest aspect of myself. So a hard time is like, all right, bring it, because I am ready to embody the next greatest incarnation of who I am. And that is a whole flip on hard times. Like, I actually want, come on, bring it. So that's the advice I give.
That's fantastic. That's such a great perspective, and then breathe into your heart. I hope everybody takes that away with them. Well, Jessica, it is already a half hour, and we're coming to the end of the show. It flew by, right? So what final words or message do you have to share with the world?
Oh, like just one in a
sentence?
Like
what would you like to communicate, like, from your heart to everybody else?
You're here on the planet on purpose. There's something about you that's great. There is nothing that you cannot be and do and have. Thank you for being here. Be who you are. Give yourself permission to love yourself no matter what. And unleash your gifts. And there's no expectation of, I think sometimes we all have too much expectation of what we're supposed to be. You're just here to be you. I'm just here to be me. Jenny's being Jenny. Jessica's being Jessica. Just be yourself. And invest in that spiritual growth, because that's really all that matters. Everything else falls into place.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming on Confessions tonight. This was really great, and I've learned a lot. We'll be talking afterwards.
Thank you, Jenny. Thanks for having me. Thanks for doing this. You're so good at it.
Oh, thank you. So you're going to want to check Jessica out and get some of her coaching and her other services. Find her at www.jessicacolp.com. I'll be posting a link below for you to easily click and find her. I'm Jenny Watson. I'm a personal empowerment coach. If anything resonated with you tonight and you'd like some private one-on-one coaching, I offer those services as well. You can check me out at www.jennifer-watson.me. Thank you for tuning in tonight. I'm excited to announce that next week is another guest panel discussion where we will be exploring our spheres of sex and intimacy. Why is it that we have such a struggle getting up close and personal? It's going to be a good one. So tune in next week to watch, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Namaste, and embrace your power.